All right. So we're going to go ahead and start looking at navigation. Now, navigation in SwiftUI is kind of complicated. And this is because when SwiftUI first came out, the way they did navigation, a lot of people didn't really love it because it was very, very coupled with how the views were. And it was basically kind of, it didn't work so well at scale or in production code. So they made some changes to make it work in that way. But the way they did it is a little bit funky, a little bit weird, a little bit odd, but we'll look at it, okay? So, and there's more advanced ways to do it. We'll look at those next class. But to start with, let's go ahead and look at this. We've got a lot of stuff going on here, okay? We've got our button that makes new facts here. We have our get new fact, right? And that's a whole thing, you know. We have this delete, which is kind of interesting, right? We have our chonker here, right? There's just a lot happening, right? It would be great if we could have this be something where we can go to another page in order to see something and do something. So like, let's say, for example, we want to be able to delete something rather than, you know, like deleting it here with a button. Maybe we click on it and then we go to a screen, and then on that screen we have an option to delete that fact from our list, right? That's typically not how you do it with lists. In SwiftUI, typically you'll have a thing where there's like an edit button and you can swipe right and it'll just go away, right? But like, you know, and actually now that I think about it, then the view will be in a weird state. It's probably not a good idea, actually. Sorry, my example just fell apart in my own head, but that's okay because that means that I'm not going to do a demo for you that's a bad example, which is it's only a good thing, I promise. Okay, so instead, let's create a screen where we can build a new fact, okay? And we'll move our chonker to that screen too to free up a bunch of space here, okay? So let's do that. All right. Now, one thing I've done here is I have pulled this fact builder out, okay, into its own little struct here. And this is something you can do too. You don't have to put them in their own files. That is a good idea though, but when you're first starting, it can be easier to just pull it out in the same file, you know, and be like, oh, cool, okay, now I want the chonker with it too, right, you know, and all this stuff, right? And now we're looking at it, and I need to put that inside of the body. That'd be good. Cool, okay, cool. So now everything that's kind of in here is going to be what we go to with our, you know, new button, right? Yeah, so we're gonna go ahead and take this. We're gonna make a fact builder view. Typically, you'll name things views, right, or lists or whatever, right? So we'll call this fact builder view .swift. Okay, and we can. Yep, that's nice. Thank you. We can copy and paste it over like this, right? And oh, actually, sorry, one other thing, just to show you, just for fun, and it's yelling at us now because there's two of them. You can you can do multiple preview macros inside of one file, and when you do that, it doesn't compile. Apparently, that's because this needs to be changed. There we go. You get different tabs up here that you can switch between, right? So now we can kind of see, oh, cool, this is what it looks like all by itself, right? You know, we can remove it from this so it's not there and it's not taking up space, right? And you can do that. And this exists because you can do all sorts of stuff with preview where you can say, like, for this, there's like a traits dot fixed layout width and height. So we can say, oh, cool, okay, so we want this to be 200, you know, like, or 400, or something like that, right? So now you can go over here, and it looks normal here, but if you go out of the interaction view, which defaults to putting everything of yours into an iPhone, and you go into the inspection view, now it's limited to whatever size you've set here, right, in fixed layout. There's also a layout that's like, what is it? Size that fits layout, which is like the smallest size it could possibly be and still fit everything, right? So it kind of crunches it in. And that's kind of nice. It's helpful for seeing, okay, this is actually what's going to get put wherever I'm putting it, right? So anyway, yeah. So for now, though, we're going to move this. Excuse me, pardon me. And we're going to put it in here, like so. We're going to do this, like so. And then we're going to go to this whole thing, pull it out, put it here, copy and paste. All the errors should go away. And we should see the very similar thing to what we were just looking at over there. Yep, here it is. Cool. So this is our chunker view. And then, of course, we actually don't want to do size that fits layout because this is going to be its own screen, basically, right, that we're going to. So we want to look at it in that context. Okay, great, awesome. So we've got this fact builder view. Very cool. Okay, so now here's the thing. It's not a subview anymore. We want to navigate to this whenever we click on Get New Fact. Moving forward, getting a new fact no longer means popping off the API. It means making our own for whatever reason, okay? So we're going to change Get New Facts button here into something else. So we're going to just go ahead and kind of comment it out for now. We'll keep it around so we can reference it. And actually, you know what? We can keep it as a button. It's fine. And, you know, we can call this fetch new fact if we want, right? And we can create a new button that does this. However, because we are navigating to somewhere else, we tend not to use buttons to do that in SwiftUI. There is a new type that you're going to use, which is called navigation link, okay? So navigation link is a lot like a button and can be styled like a button, right? It has a title key and a value or a destination, right? Or a value and a label, right? And this is kind of what you'll tend to use, right? Destination label or whatever, right? So a destination. So the destination block, for example, in navigation link will be a view builder for any view that that you want to be there. In this case, it would be the fact builder view. And we'd pass in a binding of our facts, right? So that any changes that it makes will then apply back to us, right? And then our label here, we can, style it now however we want, because basically this label is expecting a view, right? So we can put in text, right, where we say, make new fact, right? Like so, okay? And there's this, we could say instead or in addition, we could have, right, image of our cat, and this is all now kind of a part of the button, right? There's a bunch of things you can do. Now it's gray for some reason. I think, yeah, it's because it's not going to work, right? And that's because the reason why it won't work is because we're not currently in the context of navigation, okay? When you were using a navigation controller in UIKit, the navigation controller existed as a kind of container that all other view controllers were in, and it maintained something called the navigation stack, okay? SwiftUI has a similar concept, but it's just called navigation stack. They don't mess around with a navigation controller or anything like that. So if you include, and you need to spell it right, if you include a navigation stack around your views, all views that are within this navigation stack are now within a navigation stack context, which means navigation links will work and they will take you somewhere new. They'll get you where you need to go, okay? So in this case, here, we've got our navigation stack, great, and now we have our navigation link, cool, and it's got this text, awesome. And now let's go ahead and because we like a particular button style, I do anyway, right? We'll do bordered prominent, cool. Now it looks just like a button, but when we click on it, we navigate to a brand new screen, okay? And on this new screen, we're going to say, my new cat fact, right? So did you know that cats can have fur inside their ears. Okay, and we're going to hit make new fact, and it's going to disappear, which is weird. But then when we come back here, okay, then did you know that cats can have fur inside their ears is here. Interestingly enough, there is also another fact here, right? And that's because we have this task that runs on the button whenever the button appears, okay? So, you know, this is one of those things where it's like, oh, okay, maybe .task is not the correct choice in this situation, right? Because, you know, it's going to run whenever, literally whenever the button appears, which means if we go to it and come back to it and stuff. So .task, it can work okay if you're not going to and coming from, and running it again is a problem, right? But yeah, primarily we just can do that, and that'll be fine. Now we can still fetch our facts. Now we can go make a new fact, and it's did you know that chonkers can usually actually run pretty fast, right? Make new fact, hit back, and oh, it changed it to honkers. That's not fun. Delete that. There we go. Anyway, so yes. So that's how you can do navigation. That's one of the many, many ways to do navigation, okay? Navigation, when you look up Apple's documentation about navigation, you will find that they tend to prefer to use something called the navigation destination modifier. The navigation destination modifier kind of expects that your navigation is very data focused. So it's expecting that you're clicking on some piece of data in a list and you want to see more information about it, right? That is a very standard way of doing it, okay? So for example, let's say we want to make it so that our cat fact list also has a navigation link, right? We'll go ahead in here, we'll go to our list and our text, and we'll say here navigation link, and we will have this value label. Our value is going to be facts, and our label is going to be, or sorry, not facts, but fact, because we're in the list, and so it's for this particular fact. And then the label is going to be this piece of text that we have here, right? Make you correct, please. Thank you. Okay, right. And now cat fact needs to be hashable in order for this to work. Luckily for us, that's very easy to do. When you have a very simple struct, we just make it hashable, okay? And so now cat facts list works, right? And these are now navigation links, right? But they show as gray because they don't actually go anywhere. And that's because this isn't actually inside of a navigation stack. If we wanted to, we could, in our preview, create a navigation stack like so, okay? And now, oh, okay, cool. Now these are buttons, right? And they have a disclosure indicator because Apple knows that if you put a navigation link inside of a list, you should have a disclosure indicator. So it does it for you, right? But clicking on it doesn't do anything, right? Why is that? Thinkies, okay? And the reason why is because there are different kinds of navigation link constructors. And the one that we're using, ones that are focused on having a value rather than a destination, okay? The ones that have a value are, and I think we're using value label, not title value, so value label. The ones that have a value, what they do is they surface that value up to the navigation stack. And they say, hey, whatever view has a modifier that I'm looking for, whichever one closest to me has a modifier I'm looking for, please, here's the piece of data. Here's what someone clicked on, right? So again, they have a modifier for it, right? So the modifier is navigation destination, okay? Now there's 3 forms of this, and they're all different, right? They all act differently, okay? But the one that we're caring about here in this case, where we're disclosing and going into, and we're kind of double clicking on a piece of information we want to know more, is navigation destination for destination, okay? So in this one, basically we're saying, okay, here, we're going to create a block of code, right? And this block of code is going to, for any piece of information that fits a particular type, okay, is going to display a view. So here, for any particular cat fact, right? So anytime any view that's inside of this block, right, has inside of it or is a navigation link that surfaces a cat fact as its value, then this block of code runs with that fact being passed in as a parameter. So here we can do text fact.fact, okay? And then also we can do, because we're trying to get more information, right? Fact.id string, okay? And so now when we click on this, we should expect that we will go to a view, and in that view, there will be a cat fact of text, or a text of a cat fact, which here would just be test fact 1. And it would have its unique identifier just after it, right? And we should also probably put these in a VStack, like so, right? Cool. We click on it, and that's exactly what we see. Now, because this is its own sort of new view, right? You know, it's probably best practice for you to kind of take this, right? Pull it out. Struct cat fact view, right? Var body some view, boot, like so, right? And then we have a fact that comes in, var fact cat fact. Now, we don't need to make this var state, and we don't need to make it a binding. And that's because this is never changing. It's immutable, right? Which means it's cool. You know, it's all good. We can just we can even have it be a let. It doesn't need to be a var, okay? And so now when we go in here, we're gonna say, oh, okay, so now that we're here, we've got this fact coming in, someone somewhere clicked on a navigation link, and they gave us this fact, and now we wanna create a cat fact view and pass in this fact, right? There you go, boom. And you can also, you can move this struct now out to its own class, or sorry, its own file, stuff like that. Also best practice, but we're moving quickly because we got 10 minutes left, right? Cool, okay, so that's some of that navigation, right? And now we're here, right? And so now we've got our cat fact list, okay? So let's fetch a new fact, and we can click on that and go in, right? And we'll see this stuff, and that's all really cool. The other thing that we can do with the cat facts list is we can say this is a navigation link, but then we don't have to care about what the destination is. We can leave that to whoever owns us, whoever else is presenting this cat fact list, right? We can say it's up to them, okay? So we can put that responsibility into the content view. So like if you fetch a new fact here, right? This won't do anything because there's no destination set, right? But here, within the navigation stack, and it does need to be inside the navigation stack, not on the navigation stack. So within the navigation stack, we have this VStack right here, right? And we can do the navigation destination on that VStack. And now all navigation links inside of here, okay, if they are a navigation link that gives a value, then it will go to this code block and execute it and then push that onto the navigation stack. So for example, if we fetch a new fact and then we click on this, then it does this, right? Cool. But this also means that because we have a navigation link here, but this navigation link is not using a value, it has a destination baked into it, okay? It's not data-based, it's just you put it there yourself, right? Then you can click make new fact and it still takes you to the correct page. If make new fact, or if this navigation link was using a value and it was passing a cat fact as a value for some reason, it's an idiotic way to do it, but you could, right? Then this wouldn't work. Now, what you could do is you could pass in facts as the value, right? And in that case, you would say navigation destination for array of cat facts dot self, right? And then this would be the fact excuse me, facts in. The autocomplete's failing me. There we go. Fact builder view. Facts. Facts, like so. And that needs to be a binding. Cool. Now that we've done that, this is still going to do what it's going to do, right? But we don't have to build it this way anymore. Now we can build it in the same way we did the other one, right? Where we say navigation link, and now we can use one of the ones that has a value, right? So we've got value label. That one lets us customize our label a little bit more, but you don't have to do that. You can say the one that's title key value, right? So we can say make new fact, right? And then here we have our value. And in this case, it's going to be facts, right? And then we can actually comment out this whole thing, keep the button style in place, right? And now it will, once again, go to the same place, and we're using the same style as we were before. Two different ways to achieve the same result. There's also two others, and we will talk about them next week. In the meantime, are there any questions about navigation in SwiftUI, making sure that I've covered everything? Yeah, that's pretty much it. Okay. Are there any questions about navigation in SwiftUI before I start telling you a little bit about your... No, I already told you about your final project, didn't I? I told you how it was going to be broken down. Sorry, I thought I was going to save that for the end. But I'm going to tell you about your assignment for this week. That's what I was going to do. Yes. So before I do that, are there any questions about navigation in SwiftUI? Dope. Okay. So your assignment, should you choose to accept it, is to, and I can go to Canvas, and I have to log in, even though it should just remember that, because we live in the year of our Lord and Savior 2025, and yet that is where it is. And we go to assignments, and we see class 9 assignment. Don't look at that. Don't look at it. You can't see it. It's okay. Class 9 assignment reading. This is a very simple assignment to describe, and it will be probably a very hard one to do. Your job is to do exactly what you did last time, but in SwiftUI. You're going to transfer everything you did previously to SwiftUI. I have some guidance on how to do this. Just, pull up the code, keep it nearby, right? Some of the stuff you'll be able to transfer over. Your let's count library that presumably by this point you've created will be make this much easier because you can just import the package as you did with UIKit, right? That's the value of a library. You will then, you'll then do this. So this is your last assignment before the final project. And then you can work on something more interesting than a counter, because I know the counters are kind of boring. But that's okay. They're cool. So, rather than requirements, I have a checklist of hey, don't forget to do these things, because the requirements all exist in the previous two assignments, right? So you're just replicating them, but with SwiftUI this time instead of with UIKit. So, are there any questions about this assignment before I let you go? 4 minutes early for the first time in a long time, rather than 10 minutes late. Awesome. Cool. All right, I'm going to stop recording.